I'm done. So now I've got all the major rust holes fixed on the E30. I'm left with lots of small scabs of surface rust in various places, mostly on the underside of the car. Now, the next thing I want to do really is get myself into a position where I can start putting the car back together and fitting that new engine. My plan today is to get back under the car and start addressing those patches of surface rust. I'm going to use the wire brush on the angle grinder and probably various other tools to get into tight areas and brush it all off, and hopefully none of them will turn into rust holes that I didn't know about. So let's get under there and crack on with that and see what we're working with. Continuing with the running theme on this car, again, I've been quite lucky with the underside. It doesn't appear to be that bad under here. There are a few ugly looking scabs, but nothing major. Most of the original underseal and the original E-coat below it is here and it's intact. So my intention really is to focus my efforts where I can see rust scabs rather than getting carried away and trying to strip all of the undercoat off the car. Again, I've mentioned before, I am a firm believer that if I strip all the original E-coat off the car, which is most of it being quite solid currently, I'm actually going to shorten the life of the car and probably introduce rust where there was none. One of the things that is bothering me is this black tar-like finish on certain parts on the underside. It seems to be centralised around the actual floor pans, passenger and driver's side. It's quite goopy, this stuff. Somebody mentioned that I could try and take it off with a bit of diesel. I had a go with that and it doesn't appear to have touched it, to be honest. It's quite cold outside, so I'm hoping it will be less goopy today and I can actually work away with the wire brush to take some of it off. But if I end up just coating over some of it, I think that will be fine. But it depends what we find underneath. What a bloody awful job this is, and that's before the clean-up. Where do you even start? This is the worst bit I found. It's one of those studs where the heat shield screws on and it's unfortunately pitted and it's gone through to a small hole there, so I'll cut a square out there and weld a fresh piece in. So that's been a few hours of angle grinding underneath the car with the wire brush. It was working quite well actually, but it's just very laborious and quite exhausting, and of course it makes an unbelievably big mess. I'm realising that leaving these lines in place is just not an option now. What I need to do is get them all removed. It includes the fuel feed, the fuel return, the brake line, and also this breather line that goes all the way into that rear vapour expansion tank in the rear arch or thereabouts. These lines are attached via a series of plastic fittings. Some are screwed on and some are just twisted onto studs. Underneath a lot of these studs is where I'm seeing a little bit of rust, so it will pay to take them all off. I'm hoping not to destroy these lines because they're actually in surprisingly good condition, even having most of the original BMW Cosmo lines still on there. The fuel feed and return lines are attached to soft lines just at that end where the tank is, so they should be able to come off altogether without too much trouble. The brake line, however, goes all the way up to a T-piece underneath the tank, or above the tank from this perspective, and that's going to be a bit of a problem. So I think I might just take these two lines off and see if I can wedge this brake line out of the way for now. And the story with the breather is quite similar. It goes all the way to the back, so I'll again hopefully wedge it out of the way. If they break, I'll just replace them, but let's see how we go. Oh crap. Bloody petrol coming out again. Right. So all the rust I found has now been chased back to bare metal, and a few extra bits of surface rust did appear as I was wire brushing away under there. What I've done is I've got it all sprayed in an etch primer just to prevent that bare metal from flash rusting on me. And we can have a look at the damage. There is unfortunately 3 small holes to deal with. Nothing major, but still we're going to have to get the welder back out. The areas under the car where I haven't found any rust All I've done really is resurface the underseal that's there, ready to take a new coating on. I'm going to go with the same Dinitrol stuff that I used on the back. But before then, we need to be on with fixing the 3 holes I found. 2 of them are where studs come through, where plastic clips attach to the underside, and 1 of them is on a random seam under here. I'm intending to weld these from the top because I think that'll just be a lot easier. So I need to get into the cab now, find the holes on the other side, grind them down, and get some little patches cut, ready to repair. So the first one's here. I'm going to have to be mindful of this wiring. I don't want to set that on fire. The other 2 are just over there in the passenger side footwell. They look fairly simple to sort. I'm going to use a bit of 1.2mm sheet steel to get my patches sorted out. They seem to be pretty good, so let's get them transferred and cut out now. Well, this definitely looks like one of my patches. Probably got a lot of work to do on this yet. Now it does have a little bend along one edge, so I think what I'm going to do is bend it first and then I'll start trimming it to make it actually fit. Nigh on perfect that now. This one needs quite a bend on it, so I'll start by bending it and then I'll actually cut it down to be something like the right shape. Again, another good one after a trim. Let's get these cleaned up, ready for welding. So I've got it just attached in place now with a couple of magnets from the underside. Let's hop into the cab and get it tack welded in. Might be wise to take these rubber bungs actually before they get killed by the heat of the welder, so do that. Right, well that's gone really well. This one is perfectly acceptable. You can see where the welds are, but more than acceptable. The one at the front, you can barely tell any repairs happened at all. It's as if there was never rust there, which I'm really pleased about. I'm just going to put these rubber bungs back in place so I don't misplace them. There's one more hole to do, which is the one on the other side, which I'll whiz through now and show you. Let's get cracking with that. We're nearly there with this now. So this is the hole I was mentioning on the driver's side. It's obscured by the wiring at the moment, which we'll have to tuck out the way and make sure we don't damage when we're welding and cutting. It looks quite a bit worse on the other side actually, having given it a wire brush. But I think if I get a neat patch cut out and weld it in, just as I did on the other side, we'll be golden. So let's get that done quickly. So this is the patch. It's got the added complication of that stud I mentioned on the underside. We'll have to come up with a little idea for that. But I'm going to get my initial patch cut out of this offcut from a previous job. So my cunning plan to replicate that stud is to weld in this little 4mm screw, which matches it pretty closely, into this little patch before I put it in place. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to work or not. I'm expecting the metal of the screw to be very low quality and have a hard time welding with it, but we'll find out. Could be an interesting experiment. Hopefully it works out. To hedge my bets, I'm going to turn this welder down to its minimum setting, 1 min in this case. I'm going to leave the wire speed on 5, still 0.8mm mild steel wire, and I'm going to continue using the gas bottle, of course, CO2 argon mix at 10 litres per minute. On the lowest setting, I've put a little blob of weld on here, and to be honest, it doesn't look like it's penetrated into this patch piece at all. I think it's just on the head of that screw, which is kind of annoying. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to try and firm the clamp up a bit more to make sure I've got good contact with the earth onto the patch. Dial up the power on the welder a little bit, now I'm feeling a bit more confident, and then try another tack and see if we can get both pieces of metal to become one. really happy with how that patch has gone in the driver's side. Again, it's almost invisible, similar to the one I did in the front on the passenger side. The stud I put in using that screw, I think is a stroke of genius actually, if I do say so myself. So that's all the holes welded in that were in this E30's floor pan. Now, I'm not certain whether I'm going to take all the electrics out and get this whole interior painted out, or whether I'm going to kind of work around it. I'm planning to put some extra sound deadening in because nobody wants to listen to road noise, do they? And it's not supposed to be a totally stripped out car, it's supposed to be quite comfortable in the end. Either way, I'm going to make sure I've got seam sealer on these welds on this side and the other side, just to protect them from any future rust. I'm not convinced that the primer is a good enough top coat, so I won't just leave it there. I think I'm going to call it a day on that, to be honest. So the next thing to do on another day will be turning my attention to the front wheel wells, where there's some very thick underseal, and I'm certain it's going to be harbouring some more rust, which I can see poking through on various brackets. Hopefully we don't find any more holes, although I keep saying that and I keep finding them, but you never know your luck. It's been quite a grueling day working on this and getting up and down underneath the car repeatedly, but make sure you subscribe so you can see what happens with those wheel wells, and thank you very much for watching.